Hello, everyone. It's Sunday morning, the 19th of September. My name is Gary Gomes. I'm here to talk with you again about Vedic astrology and what that means in your life over the next few weeks. It's been an interesting week. Last weekend, we start off with a pretty depressing weekend, I think. We start off with Moon in Scorpio, which is always kind of a bad condition to start in. And during the week, it didn't get much easier. But let me see if I can show you the screen. Before I go on, let me just remind you that I also do readings. I also teach. I'm a teacher at Kepler College. I'm an instructor at Kepler College, have been since around 2007. I'm also a teacher at the American College of Vedic Astrology and Diary Academy to around 2003, 2004 for American College of Vedic Astrology. And around 2006, 2007 for Kepler. For Diary Academy. Kepler's having its certification day today. That means students who have completed classes are getting certified, so congratulations to all those students. And there are a variety of learning opportunities. I do teach one-on-one for those of you who are interested in having a personal one-on-one relationship with a teacher, and I'm also planning on starting my own school sooner rather than later. So and again, these are all individual choices, so you can choose the curriculum that I'm teaching, a curriculum that was developed exclusively by me, no restraints, or you can teach or you can learn in a more formal environment. And so I'm not saying any of these options is better than the other. Essentially, I believe in individualized instruction, and that is instruction which is tuned to the needs of the student. So some people do better with one-on-one instruction. Some people do better in class environments. It all depends on which format you feel comfortable with. So that having been said, I also do readings. I've been practicing Vedic astrologer for over 30 years now. I've written several articles. I am working on a book. Had some delays recently, but those should be in the past. And I plan to really write a book which will really sort of re-envision the way that Vedic astrology should be taught. I think we're starting not at the wrong place, but at a little bit away from the basics. So that's what I hope to do, and I hope to accomplish with the book is get a little bit more into the nitty gritty early on, so that there'll be less chance for conflicts of information, which can develop if you start with this sort of piecemeal approach, and then later on you'll say, "Oh, there's an exception to that rule. Why is that exception there?" And then you have to go back and basically unteach what you taught before. So, pause for a second. Hello, I'm back. Okay, so I think one of the things that happens a lot in astrology teaching is that we teach basics first, and we hold off on the more advanced stuff until we feel people are acclimatized to the basics. And I think that's a little bit of a mistake, because the really interesting stuff comes with the more advanced stuff, and your head's not going to be to explode by when you're exposed to more advanced stuff. All right, so if you like what I'm doing on the channel, hit a like button. I'm going to have my glasses again to experiment with my movie star idol looks, and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and Let's see, and I am planning more features. I am having more guests on. We've delayed the guests for a variety of reasons, both on the guest part and on my part, but we will have more guests on. We also will have more features and more channels as we move forward. Okay, so I look forward to seeing you in the future. We're over 300 subscribers now, so that's actually kind of it's a small milestone, but it's a milestone nonetheless, and it means we're making progress. Small progress, but nobody hits the big time overnight. Okay, so that being said, let's move forward. I am going to do a music channel. I am going to do other things, and hopefully I'll progress to other platforms in addition to YouTube and Great New Bedford cable TV. All right, so I'm going to pull the chart out for today. Let me just see where we are. Excuse my big head. All right. And let me see now. All right. So we have kind of an interesting combination in the heavens today. Basically, we have, now the other night we saw a conjunction in the sky, and it was actually probably a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, and that's telling because both Jupiter and Saturn are retrograde. They're really they're planets that pull in opposite directions. So Jupiter is a traditionalist planet, but it's very expansive. It's very opportunistic. It's very it's traditional, but traditional in a way that's sort of like stars and stripes, flag waving, teaching, learning, the tradition of a culture. Saturn is traditional. Saturn is used back to older traditions. Saturn's a planet connected with agriculture and growth, but also limitation of growth. So essentially, if planets are strongly, if charts are strongly Saturn dominated, you'll see a lot of limitations of growth or limitations or slowness of progress, a lot of steadiness, but a lot of slowness. If Jupiter is well placed, you'll see an even, steady, sometimes erratic growth spurts, because Jupiter's optimistic, Saturn's cautious. So if you have Jupiter and Saturn together, it's sort of like a push me, pull you. Both planets are essentially competing to do the same thing in the long run, but Jupiter wants to do it more quickly, more traditionally, less eccentrically. Saturn wants to do it more conservatively, and sometimes, because it also rules Aquarius, more eccentrically. Okay, so it'll pull back some of the old ways to do things. And a lot of times you'll see Jupiter, at least from my perspective, Jupiter's a more ideological planet. Essentially, this is the way to do things. This is the way things should be done. It has those high ideals. Saturn's more practical. It's more ensconced in the reality of the time. So, and it's also pessimistic about growth. So Jupiter and Saturn will both be retrograde until around mid-October. That will tend to make people pessimistic about things. It'll tend to make people pessimistic about the progress being made against the coronavirus. It'll also tend to make people very, very frightened of limitations of hardships of the economy. So you'll see a lot of pressure not to. So while Saturn favors poor people, you'll also see Jupiter in the opposite direction, saying, "Well, can we afford this? Is this ideologically sound? Is this ideologically merited?" So you have these very strong traditions which both view towards helping the poor, but Jupiter is also interested in maintaining the structure of a society. Saturn's less concerned with that, and more concerned with redistributing wealth, but doing it slowly. On the other hand, you have Jupiter aspecting Mars and Mercury, which again is connected with the coronavirus, because as I said in earlier broadcasts, the coronavirus tends to spread when Jupiter and Mars are involved with each other. Actually, even though the source may be K2, okay, K2 is in a sign ruled by Mars right now, and is in the same sign with Mercury. So you're getting a lot of panic. To be quite honest, you're getting a lot of. It's too hard for me to call it lies, but you're getting a lot of panic around what's happening both societally because of Rahu being in Venus' sign, and financially in terms of safety, and also in terms of media. So the media and the government are essentially lying to us. And when I say the government, I mean both parties. I don't mean, I don't mean just the Republican or just the Democrat. Government is not being honest with us right now. And essentially what they're doing is they're doing what politics does. And essentially they're parsing their responses. So politicians, it's not so much a lie as it is a manipulation of facts. Okay, so you can say this is true and this is true, and you can combine them together and create kind of a fearful environment. So I'm just encouraging people not to be afraid. The next couple of months will be kind of tough for the United States and the rest of the world in terms of the coronavirus. After mid-December, you'll see more cures, more vaccines, more treatments come out. As a matter of fact, there are more treatments coming out right now, even as I'm speaking. But the main focus is on essentially limiting people's actions, Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, and the moon. So the public just came out of a fear cycle from last Monday. And the moon right now is in Aquarius, which gives it more of a chance for more cures to be brought forward and more people to be helped. So I wouldn't worry. We don't have a Kalasarpa Yoga. That's when all planets are between K2 and Rahu. Venus is in the first house in Libra, as we're talking, as aspected by Saturn. So that will give some problems to entertainers or to people involved in the sciences, particularly the medical sciences. And I think in large part, there's a lack of, depending on your affiliation, is going to be a lack of belief in what the other side is saying. Okay, so that's just a given. That's going to continue really until the end of next year. And I would say after March of next year, you're going to see a lot of stuff start to come out, which will be very eye-opening. Like I said, on both sides, not just one side or the other. So it's K2 and Scorpio is a very conspiratorial placement. Rahu and Taurus indicates people wanting to hold on to their position no matter what the cost. and so that's been essentially, so both Ketu and Rahu are in fixed signs. There's not a lot of ambition to overthrow or overturn things. You'll see that happening a lot after March of next year. Okay, and again from both sides, from both the right and the left. The other thing to keep in mind is we have, so I shared on Facebook something about earthquakes in California, and there were something like 92 earthquakes in Yosemite, which seems like a lot. Apparently, it's not uncommon for Yosemite to have a lot of earthquakes. It's an extremely active area. As a matter of fact, it's a super volcano for those of you who are aware of it. We're not going to see the super volcano blow up. Don't worry about that. But excuse me. But I think one of the things you have with this Jupiter-Saturn combination and also the Mars-Mercury is you have a lot of aggravation, a lot of short tempers, especially with the Mars-Mercury combination. So essentially, you'll see, especially institutionally, people wanting to move slowly, but there'll be a lot of pressure for people to take action from this conjunction. So these two conjunctions are really kind of like governing the entire chart, and will be for about another 2 days. And Mercury will be in the same sign with Venus. Will tend to be a little bit more less. We'll still be fearful about virus for about another month and a half, but basically, when Mercury moves into the same sign with Venus, that will be within about, like I said, about 2 days, and you'll see a lightening, a little bit more of a fun atmosphere, a little bit more progress being made towards goals. And then around the end of the month, towards the end of the month, Mercury goes retrograde, and you'll get that sense of things stopping again. But there is danger of volcanic activity. I just have to warn, not volcanic, earthquake activity, and there is some danger of flooding because of Venus being aspected by Saturn, and also some danger, some very serious weather danger because of the Mercury, Mars, and Sun conjunction. So, and also some danger to governmental overthrows. And what I mean by that is not necessarily in countries like the United States, but in other countries around the world. So let's see where that's happening. Let's see where all these world events are happening. But there is a very strong, I have to say, it's a very strong desire to keep things where they are, to keep things stable, to keep things status quo. And that's seen by that Rahu and Taurus. People are not going to be willing to give up their money. People are not going to be willing to change their ways. That's really not in the cards for about another 6 months or so. So let's go over to the time and space chart. And if we look carefully at this chart, so we still have some activity in California, right? So right around Yosemite area. And excuse my big face in the frame. And there's still some danger of off-sea activity, especially around, it's pretty far from any land, but let's say like bad storms in the Western Pacific, in the Eastern Pacific, excuse me. And the rising sign does show some negative activity in California. Saturn's aspecting. It's running over the state capital. So last week, as I predicted, Newsom was retained as governor of California. But you'll see some activity and problems with the government in Arizona, all the way up through Idaho, all the way up through Montana, and also some fights and arguments, maybe even some shooting in the government in um, Baja California and into Mexico. If we go over here, this is a Mercury line running through the Midwest. So this is from Louisiana um, through essentially through Ottawa and Michigan. So 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 and through Indiana and Kentucky and Western Kentucky and Western Tennessee. So there can be some problems with weather. There can be some problems with violence there as well in those areas. Um, East Coast down here, we have a Venus line running through Washington, D.C. So people will be getting along in Washington, but there'll still be some restraints or some constraints on whether or not legislation gets passed. There's also, let me see now, a Venus line running through here. So it looks like the Dominican Republic, I'm sorry, Haiti is going to get hit by more flooding. And so is Panama and Eastern South America. Rahu is still going through Guyana and Brazil, and so there's a Rahu line going through here, and this essentially indicates some water damage, some infection damage. And over here, let me just see if I can see what this line is. Oh, there's a Saturn line going through DC as well. So that's definitely going to limit or obstruct legislation. There's a Jupiter line running through South America, though. So that indicates there'll be at least some potential for new hope. But I think one of the problems you see when you have a debilitated Jupiter is doctors will be recommending the wrong things or incorrect things. Sun, Mars are over Greenland and Iceland and Azores, so and Madeira. So I think those islands will have um, some minor political problems. Mercury's running over Portugal and Spain and Ireland and England. So again, problems with lies from the government. Venus is running over Italy, and it's a Saturn line running off southwest Africa. So there should be some drought or famine down there. And the Saturn line is also running through Turkey, so there should be some problems with diseases in Turkey. Some renewed outbreaks going all the way through Iraq and all the way into central Russia. Jupiter is Jupiter is also running through Syria and Moscow, and you'll see the moon running through basically through that's not is that Afghanistan? Sun and moon running through Afghanistan, so that indicates some calming down in Afghanistan, but not for long. There's Sun Mars lines and Mercury lines, so we can expect some political scandals in India. And finally, we're looking at a Venus line running through China. So there should be an increase of trade in China, but also some anxiety in northern China, near Mongolia, and through the Philippines and through Australia. Again, Australia is not getting much of a break. As a matter of fact, the public's starting to get a little bit worried in Australia. New Zealand has a Mercury line running through it. So again, there's more worries about lies from the government. I hate to keep going back to these themes, but essentially, nobody around the world trusts their government right now, and or authority figures. So I think they, at least for another couple of days, then you'll see people getting a little bit less worried about it, but there'll still be an increasing spread of the virus over the next couple of months because of the Jupiter Mars aspect, and then you'll see it start to abate. And I would say in mid-October to late December, and you'll see rates go way down. If we're looking at problems with land, Saturn, and what used to be called Indochina, Vietnam, Cambodia, look like they have some problems with earthquakes or with landslides. So those parts of the world have been hit pretty significantly, and there's actually too much activity on this map for my liking. I don't think a lot of these lines are very healthy for us, just in general. They're very, they're very dangerous. Again, 2 days, a lot of the danger, a lot of the anger will go away. But people will also feel kind of compressed or tied in. That won't go away really until around early October. So unfortunately now, again, the good part is in countries like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, even in England and Spain and Portugal, and even in the United States, you'll see some increased effort to change governments. So I think that's the positive sign, to get governments to do the right thing. But it'll be because of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, it'll be kind of a long, slow, and tedious process. But those are the areas that look kind of volatile right now. And I just want to look and see if there are any more Rahu lines near the United States. No, so that's good. One that's closest to us goes through Brazil. And like I said, there are a lot of what I would call the panic factor in that Rahu rules in charts. I mean, it doesn't mean that there's no justification for it, but a lot of the panic factor will essentially go away within a few days. Okay, so let's look over here at the birth maps of the signs. And for Aries still has some dissatisfaction with money, but relationship life, it seems to be working out a little, but it's moving more slowly than it would like, but that's okay. Some gain of financial assets, some ability to overcome enemies, a lot of ambition in the sign. K2's in the 8th house, and essentially that does indicate relationship partners will seem a little bit difficult to pin down or a little bit difficult to trust. Saturn and Jupiter are in the 9th house, so that's actually considered to be a Raj Yoga for this particular rising sign, so that's actually good for career. and financial gains. So it looks to be a good month for Aries, despite some relationship misgivings. It's a little better than it has been for quite a while. But Taurus, this is May 15th to June 15th. Rahu sits in the first house. It's going to be there for until next March. But the Sri Lagna, or the money-producing sign, is there, and desire for financial growth is there. And also, the sun just entered Virgo, so it'll give this particular sign more ability to make money, more financial growth, and it'll feel much more competitive. K2 relationship life will still seem a little bit uncertain. The person will be attracted to unavailable or difficult to get to know people. Jupiter and Saturn are in the ninth house together. Again, that's a Raj Yoga for this particular sign. It's so-called a Dana Yoga, or a wealth-producing combination. So finances should succeed, but it'll take a while to get things going. And they probably won't really manifest positively until around mid-October. And the moon's in the 10th house, so this sign should be very popular this next week. Cancer has Jupiter and Saturn in the 7th house, so this is going to be considered pretty good for relationship life. So you'll have two kinds of people that you attract: people who are serious and people who are more traditional. And at least from this chart, this sign will be much more ambitious, much more energetic this month. In terms of how it feels about relationships, a lot better, a lot more stable. But again, some problems with children. Jupiter, Saturn in the 7th house, we already spoke about this to a certain extent. Moon is in the 8th, so it'll tend to make this sign very attractive to other people, but also a little bit lacking in confidence. And Rahu sits in the 11th house, so it should give good short-term financial gains. For Gemini, I don't think I did Gemini. Did I do Gemini? Gemini no, I didn't. Gemini has the Sri Lagna in the first house, so it's very connected with money. The Lord is in the 4th house. It's exalted. It's in its best possible sign. So that's good. They're not above lying to get what they want or misrepresenting themselves to get what they want, but that's okay. And they'll actually produce more income and also have good romantic attachments over the next few weeks. 7th house Lord is Jupiter, placed in the 8th. It's a bit difficult for long-term relationships and a bit difficult for travel. And Saturn's in the same sign with Jupiter, with the debilitated Jupiter, so that makes money from other sources come in, but slowly. Moon is in the 9th house. Luck is pretty good for this sign this month. And for the 10th house, Jupiter's the 10th house ruler. Its Lord is in the 8th house. So basically, most financial gains will come through research. And again, there'll be a lot of spending on physical appearance and on other assets for this sign. I already did Cancer. We're going to go as a Leo. Leo has Ketu in the 1st house, which is like a small planet. Mercury, Mars, Sun in the 2nd house, good for money, but again, a little bit unscrupulous in how they get it. Venus is in the 3rd house, tends to be good for financial gains and also for charming people. Ketu is in the 4th house, some detachment or isolation from family members. Jupiter and Saturn are in the 6th house, will give some trouble with authority figures. Moon is in the 7th house. He'll give change in relationship partners, and will also give new relationship partners, although eccentric ones. And Rahu sits in the 10th house, so fame and career and financial gain show up again. For Virgo, Virgo has Mercury and Mars and Sun exalted, so that gives expenditures. The Lord of the 12th is in the 1st. It gives strong desire and ambition, the Lord of the 3rd. And the 8th are in the 1st, and Mercury, the Lord of the 1st and the 10th, are in the 1st house. So this gives good career advantage. It may give some problems with supervisors or people who the person reports to because of Rahu in the ninth house. So there may not be a little bit of anxiety, lack of trust, but that will actually make the sign rather fearless. It'll be good for bringing money in, and Jupiter and Saturn will sit in the fifth house. So it'll be good for what I would call romantic involvements with older people or business partnerships from older people. Moon is in the sixth, some minor health problems, especially connected with the stomach. And seventh house Lord is in the fifth, so this could give love affairs, short-term love affairs, but ones which will be unconventional. And Rahu's in the ninth house, good luck, and good financial gains, but again, there will be a certain amount of dissatisfaction from bosses. For Libra, Libra has Venus in the first house. This creates what's called the Malavya Yoga. I forgot to mention that Virgo has a Madhya Yoga, which is Mercury in its own sign, the first house. And basically we have a Malavya Yoga and a Sasha Yoga from Saturn. So since Venus, Mercury, and Saturn are all friends, the sign should do fairly well in terms of finances, although there will be expenditures connected with property. And also in terms of spiritual knowledge and spiritual growth. And a lot more movement in terms of property matters. So you'll see a lot of property matters that have been installed, put on moving forward. Moon is in the fifth house, so again, we have possibly romantic involvements, although they'll be very short term. And Rahu's in the eighth house, so this will give relationship partners who seem very dissatisfied or very unhappy with their lives. Ninth house has Sri Lagna in it, which is good for financial gains, and the Aruda for the 10th is in the 10th house, so that should give good money gains. For Scorpio, Scorpio has Ketu in it, some possibility of diseases for Scorpio, with the Aruda for the 6th in Scorpio, and Parivesha and Yamagantika are in the second house, so it should give them more financial gains, more financial success. Jupiter and Saturn, we have problems with the lungs or with the stomach with this combination. And Moon is in the fourth house, should give a slow heal for this sign as opposed to a rapid heal. And let's see now. We have Rahu in the seventh house, so it'll give dissatisfaction or unhappiness with relationships in general. But relationship partners will be bringing in extra money, and there's more financial growth indicated from other planets in the sign. All these planets in the 11th house give fulfillment of goals for Scorpio rising. So even if they don't seem all that happy right now, they'll still be fulfilling their ambitions. For Sagittarius rising, we have Jupiter and Saturn in the second house, problems with breathing, problems with lungs. Moon is in the third house, so you're seeing some cure with that. Also, finances look a little bit better for this sign. Fourth house Lord has no planets in it, but Jupiter, Lord of the fourth, is in the second, so that should give more financial gains, should give improved financial health over the short run. Rahu's in the sixth, so frustration with health. That's really up until March. And Sri Lagna is in the seventh house, so relationship partner will do well financially. And you have Mars, Mercury, Mars, and Sun in the Aruda for the 10th in the 10th house, so you should see financial gains for the sign and career gains. Capricorn has Jupiter and Saturn in it. Not a bad placement. Jupiter helps Saturn. Saturn doesn't help Jupiter. So, but this is actually good because Jupiter's the Lord of the third and the 12th houses, so this minimizes losses for this sign. And you have Gulika and Mandi in this particular sign, and also Duma, which are malefic upagrahas. So a lot of people with Capricorn risings are going to have a little bit of a tough time over it lately. But they'll be thinking about relationship life because the Lord of the second is The Lord of the seventh is in the second house, and financial gains. Some problems with children, and career-wise and luck-wise, they'll do very, very well this month. So relationships are still not perfect, but improving for this particular sign. For Aquarius, Aquarius has moon in the first house. So this is a healing moon. Moon is in Saturn Nakshatra, which is connected with 100 physicians. And basically, whenever you see a combination like that, this indicates that health problems are, they're starting to find a way to overcome health problems just in the general public. The Lord of the first house is in the 12th, so a lot of these will be hidden away. A lot of discoveries about what's causing health conditions will be hidden away, at least for another, I would say another month or so. And you also have Rahu in the fourth house, so some dissatisfaction in home life, some anonymity or opposition career-wise. So this sign is anxious to make change, but the people it's working with don't want to make change that much. And the seventh house Lord is in the eighth house, so the person will be attracted to people who have good communication skills, maybe a little bit fickle-minded or a little bit difficult to understand at times. Libra's in is the ninth house of this particular sign, so it guarantees good luck, and especially through research. And 12th house Lord is in the 11th house Lord is in the 12th house. So again, friends will cost you money. Last but not least, we have Pisces. Pisces is opposed by Sun, Mars, Mercury. So this gives some opposition and some struggle with dishonest relationship partners. Rahu's in the third house, so this sign has a lot of ambition. This Mercury, Mars, Sun this sign should be careful in business dealings and in partnerships of any kind. But if they do research on their own, they'll be able to turn a profit pretty quickly. K2's in the ninth house, so again, it does give difficulty with bosses or with superiors. And Jupiter and Saturn sit in the 11th house, so it should give good financial gains. Moon is in the 12th. It should give a lot of wishful thinking and a lot of speculative thinking. But again, a very strong spiritual nature. So that's it for this week. I'm going to look and see what the timing is like. If I have extra time, I'll put some extra time on. Or I may have to redo this because I got interrupted when I started. So, but again, like I said, if you like what I'm doing, please subscribe, please like, please bang those buttons so I can bring more to you, and we can get the schools going faster and the other channels going more quickly. Okay, thanks a lot, everybody. You have a fantastic week, and namaste. Oh, and call me at 508-525-0001 for readings, lessons, anything. That's the fastest way to get me. Thanks a lot.